I mark it, set, go. That's what he used to say all the time.
Yeah.
I saw the cutest video this morning. Sorry, tell me when you're ready.
We are streaming to Facebook and YouTube.
I was going to tell a story, but I won't.
I think you should tell a story now. And everyone on the WWWs, it is great to have you back with us today.
Even George W.
George W. What are we doing today? Hey, it is the Discipleship Track podcast today, and we are excited for it. Welcome back to everybody that's with us. We are going to dive in with our topic today. We are very live, and we're going to dive in with our topic today. That sounds
Bobby
good.
Brady.
I'll explain why I sound like this in a minute. But we're gonna welcome our recorded audience, and then we'll dive in, and I'll tell you why I sound like a 12-year-old boy. And here we go. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for checking out this week's episode of the Discipleship Track podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Rob, joined, as always, by the awesome and talented Patsy Parati. Patsy, say what's up.
I really can't because I just don't want to get sprayed by the sick
be very
person
careful.
next to me.
The germs are a-flying in here. And we are here because we believe that God has called us to live a life that is fully devoted to Him. But in order to do that, we've got to put in a little bit of work. It's not going to happen on its own. So we record these podcasts each and every week-ish so that you can grow on the go. We hope you take us with you no matter where you are, whether you're cooking in the kitchen, walking the dog, working out in the gym, hiding in the cubicle, picking up the kids at school.
On an airplane,
getting ready to go away, wherever it may be. We hope we get to go there with you so that we can grow together and build a community of people that are committed to living a life that's fully devoted to Him. We got an awesome topic for you today.
Yes, we do.
But before we dive into that, I just need to apologize to everybody that's listening to us because I sound horrible. If you were on the podcast last week, you heard me say that my face was leaking all over the place and I was a hot mess. Well, I thought I would be better by this week, but I'm not. And it's worse. So I at least this is like the best my voice has sounded in like 4 days.
It's a new layer of the illness.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like a 7-layer cake.
Yes. It makes me think of Shrek when he says ogres are like onions. I'm the big onion. You just got to keep peeling back the layers. But so I apologize if I sound like awful. I couldn't not be with everyone today. So we're going to record.
He misses me.
Exactly. As best as we can. Hopefully you can understand me and I'm not driving you too crazy. But hey, let's dive into the topic today. Can we? Why don't you
So you know that we're still in a series called Why, where we're trying to answer those questions, or everyone's got those why questions, and we're studying the book of Job for anyone who's following along. And if you have missed some of them, you just rewind, find those why ones that we did. So now we're up to the part of Job where God finally does speak. But we begin with, the title of this is Why Don't I Understand? So I think you just typed out our caption for watching this is just, has there ever been a time in your life where you thought you knew and only to find out that you were so off base? And that's kind of where we've come in with Job, is that he was kind of a little bit off base. But we're going to debunk a lot of misconceptions about what happens, this interaction between the Lord and Job and the conversation that they have, because I don't like the fact that I think a lot of people misinterpret the way that, wow, the laryngitis is already jumping over here. Misinterpret the way that the Lord responds to Job. But anyway, so I wanted to share a little bit of a story about a time in my life.
Oh, finally, story time with Patsy.
Story time
with Rob.
Story time. A little story where I was so sure that I was right about something, only to find out I was so wrong. And sadly, in my righteousness, where I thought I was so right, I was really getting angry. And you're going to be horrified to know what it was surrounded around. It was around my 40th birthday.
Oh.
So many, many moons ago, when Patsy was younger and less wrinkly, I was turning 40. And my husband, so backtrack even further. When my husband turned 40, I had like the most epic 40th birthday party for him, because we decided we would do 40. We would hit it out of the box and go crazy. So he's 7 years older than me. So he had 7 years to prepare. For his 40th, I chartered a yacht, and we had 10 couples on this yacht, like a 6-course dinner, whatever, all around Manhattan. It was like the most amazing night. So, so now the ball was in his court to up it for my 40th.
I was going to just call it something, but
okay,
I can't call it that or I'll get in trouble.
Okay, you'll be in trouble.
But
anyway, so he had to
it's
raise
something
the bar.
Cruise that you were on, correct? Around Manhattan?
Well, no,
this
was private. This was a private. I chartered a private yacht.
Wow, you're a high roller.
We were high rollers.
Well, you are a nationally known speaker.
That's
so
right.
I guess it just comes with the
Let me just tell you, if you're planning a 40th.
You don't sail corporate or whatever. What is it?
We didn't go with the little people.
No, the little. No, I got no room for the little people.
We were just our own people.
Private or nothing.
It was, let me tell you what, though. It was the coolest thing. I saved up for like an entire year and a half to be able to afford it. Not kidding. Like all my grocery money I was saving. Such a cool thing to do. I highly recommend it. But so fast forward now, he's got it 7 years later. He's got to do it for
commercial. That's the word I was looking for, not corporate. Commercial.
Commercial.
Sorry. Okay, go back.
Anyway, so I'll tell you how cool it was. Do you know that my husband thought that we were going somewhere else and he was all upset, and we're on the West Side Highway in New York and we're driving to the location. He thinks we're going somewhere else and he's getting like mad at me in the car, in the limo. My sister had gotten a limo for us.
Of course you have a limo.
So yeah, it was so cool. It was the coolest day.
Yeah, of course.
So wait, we
little people don't even know it. We just watch the limos pass us when we're on the highway.
We pulled into one of
I wonder who's in there.
Quiet.
Must be Burt Reynolds or something. In the comments below, if you know what movie I just quoted, please put it in the comments below or on the side wherever you're watching. You know what movie that is.
This is how we'll know if anyone's really watching us or paying attention. So listen, so when we get out of the car, I shouldn't even be telling this part of the story, but we pull in and now he's like so confused. We pull into one of the piers and the captain of the yacht that I had gotten opens the door and he looks at my husband and he goes, "Mr. Perotti, welcome to your 40th birthday." And he was like, "This is like the best moment of my life." So now he had to top that or at least equal it 7 years later for me. So 40th birthday, but, different stage of life. We have 3 kids now, whatever. So he takes me to his parents' house for a surprise party with the family. And this may come as a shock to some of you out there watching or listening. I was a little disappointed. I was not so happy about that. Way. But he gave me a gift, and in the gift was a card, and he told me where he was taking me. So he's taking me to Lake Placid, to a place that we love up there called the Mirror Lake Inn. So shout out to the Mirror Lake Inn because you guys are so cool.
So went there. Our video.
So that you should. So, and we could get a Mirror Lake Inn poster back here absolutely. For you.
No
and
problem.
Free advertising. For you. So, but then I was really happy again. So I got this gift and I was like, oh, okay, so we're going to go away together and that'll be great. So we, it's the day that we're supposed to be leaving for the trip and the kids are all settled and it's a 4-hour drive. And he's making all these stops along the way. He's got to stop because he wants to look at real estate. He's got to do his, and I'm starting to get like really upset. And I'm like, whose birthday is this? Right. I'm like, it's my 40th birthday. Mm-hmm. What are you doing? So finally we get there, we check into the room. We're so excited. And I was like, oh, let's go for a walk or whatever. And he's like, no, he's like, I really just, he's like, I wanted to take a little nap because I'm a little tired and I'm going to work out and then we'll go to dinner. And I was like, what? And he's like, no, and I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go for a walk. And he's like, no, I don't want you to go. He's like, just stay here with me. He's like, come on, we'll just hang out. Let's just rest. It was a long drive. We're going to rest before we go. And I was really getting mad. Sure. So sorry, guys, we had a little fight. And I was like,
you fight?
This really stinks. I'm like, it's my 40th birthday. And like, it just stinks what you're doing. So he's like, oh, it's going to be fine. He's like, let me just rest. So we rest. I'm pouting, so upset. He did get me a wine and cheese platter, though. So that kind of took the edge off a little bit.
That helps.
So then it's time to go to dinner. We go downstairs. There's a beautiful dining room in the inn that we're in. And he's like, no, we're going to go across the street to the little pub. Still part of the Mirror Lake Inn. I was still happy, but I was like, oh, okay, we're going to the pub. Okay. So we walk across the street. We walk in.
I would think you'd be comfortable there because you're Irish, so it's like your second home.
It's in my, exactly. Before I learned how to crawl, I learned how to open a bottle. So we go across the street to the pub. It's pouring rain. We go across the street. We get in. It's so crowded. It's loud. But I was like starting to loosen up. And I was like, okay, we're going to have a good time. This is going to be fine. They walk us back to our table. 35 of my friends jump up and scream, happy birthday.
In Lake Placid.
In Lake Placid.
What?
So people were like, were you surprised? I was like, no, I was so unsettled. I was like, I might need an ambulance. So to be that far away from home and have this amazing thing happen, he hosted an entire weekend.
Wow.
It was phenomenal. And like the next night, big dinner. Anyway, all that to say, back to, I was so wrong when I was getting mad at him. I was like, this stinks. How could you do this? This is not a good birthday. I'm stuck in this hotel room and you just want to take a nap and whatever.
Right now I'm just picturing Dave watching this.
Oh, he like loved every second of it.
Just being like, I got her.
He totally got me. And when we got to the party, he gave me a big hug and he was like, are you happy now? And I was like, yeah, you had to tack the now on.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you happy now?
Yes, but I hate you.
I was shaking so bad, but I was so wrong. I was so off base. And what I experienced was something so wonderful. And then it wasn't just like, oh, I found out my husband was this great guy who did this great thing. It was having all my friends. It was like my whole world expanded for that whole weekend in the most amazing way. And just a few hours before, I was so sure that it was going to stink. I was so mad. And I had kind of ruined, the build up to this surprise. And I should have just been happy knowing that we were going away. And even if he did take a nap, I did start thinking that when he was taking a nap, I was like, I'm such a bad wife. I should be more grateful. This is a really nice place, but I was still mad, just being honest.
Of course.
So anyway, all that to say, I kind of think that that's where we are with Job, where we come into the story with Job. Job is really upset with the Lord. Now, rightfully so. Job has a lot of, not rightfully so to be angry with the Lord, but he has a lot of horrible things that have happened in his life. But instead of trusting God, he's starting to say, this stinks. You're not a good God.
Yeah.
Everything is awful. And now we come into the place in Scripture in Job chapter 38 where God finally speaks to him and he finally answers him. And I feel like Job had that moment like I did, where he was like, oh my gosh, I was so wrong. So anyway, I've been talking so much. Can you relate to that? Do you get like that?
No, because I'm always right. So sorry. I have tons of like stupid stories of that where I was like so sure I was right and then I'm wrong. But I think like for me, maybe I'll just flip the perspective a little bit. Because like you were saying, like Job looked and realized like, oh my gosh, like there was more to this than what I could see. I think for me, that's probably one of the most difficult things that I have to wrestle with as a pastor in my role as a pastor. And I want to be careful how I make this analogy because I don't want it to seem like the God effect, right? Like of a pastor and information and what we know and things like, because that's not what I'm talking about. But the thing that I wrestle with the most is that, as a pastor, you have to make really hard decisions and you have to make really big decisions and you have to make them, and you are going to make them because you're going to have information or details or understanding about a person or a situation or whatever it may be. You're going to have to make that decision with those details, knowing full well that the people that are going to be impacted by the decision are not going to be able to have the details, the information, the understanding that you have. Yeah. And I can't tell you how many times as a pastor, I or the other pastors in the church and things like that, we've had to make decisions and we've been judged and we've been critiqued and we've been criticized, and I know those are big words, but it's the honest truth, for our decision because in their mind, with the information that they had, our decision is completely wrong. Right. Like, why would you do that? This is just what is happening, and you went to this place to make that decision. Right. And so then they think, well, you blew it. What's wrong with you? Right. And they go down the list of let's attack everything about you. When in reality, it's, yes, you're right. If the information that you have is all the information that there is, then you're right. My decision is wrong. Correct. Yeah. But there's more to the story. And I need you to trust me that if you had the information that I had, you probably would have made this same decision as well. And I think that's the whole thing. You hit it with this one word, trust. And that's the problem, is that when our circumstances are what they are, whatever they are, it can be sickness, it can be poverty, it can be whatever it is, but we look at the circumstances that we have and then we make our decision based on that, and we find it really difficult to trust, whether it's trusting the pastor, trusting authorities, trusting, whatever authority is over you, but ultimately trusting God with the situation. And it is so hard because we are proud people to realize we have limited knowledge. Yeah. We don't always have the whole story. And it's hard because we're so sure that we're right. And I have fallen into this trap. I probably fall into it almost every day of my life, where I'm so sure this is the right decision. This is what I should do. Just look at the way our country is right now, you guys, where I was just reading this horrifying story about another road rage incident. And I try to adopt the thinking when someone's
going down the road or whatever, and even if they cut me off, I want to be the person who thinks maybe something's going on in their life and they just have to get where they're going, and I'm just gonna ease back, and maybe they're not, maybe they're just a terrible driver, maybe they're being careless, but we're so quick to judge everybody and to jump when we don't have all the details. Maybe that's not the best example, but I think you guys kind of know what I mean.
Well, it's like you've seen it in the movies a million times, right? Like how the cops pull over the guy that's speeding down the road, and they pull him over and they see his wife's in labor in the back seat.
That actually just happened recently. It was in the news.
Really?
Yeah, there's a story where the cop pulls him over, and they had this adorable picture of the father and the policeman because he delivered the baby. He delivered the baby. It was really cool. Like just this past week.
Yeah, exactly. Happened. But it's like a real thing. Like we are so quick to do that, and I wish if there was like this is one of the things that I wish we could change about ourselves. And I do this all the time, and my wife and I were actually just talking about this past week, because it's like I wish if there was one thing that I could change in me like instantly, it would be my ability to step back and think and realize there's more to the story than what's going on before I just react and respond based off of the little piece of information that I have.
Right, absolutely. And that's, I think, the problem that Job had, is that he reacted based solely on his circumstances. Now, he had circumstances that the majority of human beings will never face. So it's the most extreme case. Mm-hmm. So that being said, to make sure I point out to myself and everyone else who's listening, it's never going to be that bad for us. We can hit the pause button. We can stop for a second, pray, think, and also say, maybe I don't, like you just said, maybe I don't have all the information. Let me just hold back on making my, whatever, my critique or my decision or whatever it is. Yep. So, but I want to get to the part of this too, where we talk about, what do you think that people think of when the Lord starts to answer Job in this eloquent speech that he gives? What do you think that most people think of God based on his response? And you guys have to read 38, 39, 40, 41. You got to read those chapters if you want to see what God of Job.
Here's the thing. I'm probably going to give an answer that most people probably wouldn't agree with. So hot take here.
I usually don't agree with him.
Exactly. That's why we get along so well.
Today could be different though.
Yes. You never know. Today could be the day. I think a lot of people read those passages where God is speaking to Job, right? Like when he finally starts to respond, and they kind of give this impression, I think, that God is looking at Job saying, "Ha, see, you don't know anything. Right. I'm so much smarter than you. What's wrong with you? Just shut up and listen."
Right.
And they feel like God's like coming down on him and dropping the hammer on him like this awful belligerent, like just dictator.
Right.
And I'll be honest, like I've heard that perspective more often than not when it comes to this particular piece of the Bible. And I'll be totally honest, the more like I'm trying to understand the heart of God and the way that he loves each and every one of us and things like that, I don't know if I can get to that point where I could say that's the way God was responding. And I think one of the biggest reasons that I get to that, or I can't get to that point, is because I'm a father now.
Yep.
And I look at the way that my son and my daughter are, and I think back to the times where they fall short, or they make they speak out without understanding, right? Like my kids do it to me all the time. Like, "Daddy, can I jump off the top of the house?" Like, "No, don't." "Daddy, I hate you. You don't know how much fun that would be." It's like, "No, I do know how much fun it would be, because you're gonna kill yourself." Like, that's why I'm saying no, right?
We don't want you to be like a pancake on the ground.
Exactly. So it happens a lot, right? And I look at my kids, and it's very tempting, right? Let's be honest. It's very tempting when we know something that someone doesn't and they make the wrong decision. It's very tempting for us to want to wag our finger in their faces and be like, "I told you so. You shouldn't have done that. You should have listened to me." But the heart of the matter is, and really this is what I mean by now that I'm a father, I look at it, and very rarely are there times where when my kids mess up, I can't wait to go rub it in their face as a dad. Right? Like, how small, first of all, maybe this is wrong to say, how small of a person do you have to be to rub it into a child's face that you were right and they were wrong, first off? If that's something that you wrestle with, we would love to help you with that, because that is not the way it's supposed to be. And there's something much bigger going on there. I know I'm totally off topic, but I just feel like I had to say that.
No, but the topic goes where the topic goes. You know, and also, like, too, you're missing out on something, and there's something, like you said, deeply wrong inside of you.
Exactly. Like, and that's why, like, I look at those situations and I see, like, I don't want to just rub my son's face in the fact that he made a mistake. I want to love him because he feels like a failure, and that's not who he is.
Right. And you want to show him who you are. You want him to know that you're good. I mean, listen, I'm a parent too, and I can't tell you how many times my kids, when they were little, they would think like I was being unfair, or I didn't understand, or I was making the wrong decision. And that's the same thing that the Lord is trying to communicate to Job, is that it's not that I made the wrong decision. So I love that and I'll be honest with you, this conversation and this study that we wrote, that we made available to you guys, is the first time that we're giving it from the perspective of God being a loving father who's come. It's the first time I'm hearing it. I've never heard a sermon. I'm sure they're out there. So like, if you guys are watching and you want to, link us to a sermon where someone presents God in a beautiful light, not as an angry God who's just lecturing Job. I'm sure they're out there, but I think that this is the first time for me, is us doing it. And I love it. And I have to tell you that when I start reading Job chapter 38, the beautiful things that God says to him and how they've affected my life, because I want to grow in my knowledge of God, in my love for him, in my understanding as much as I can, but also in my awe of him. And, I think we use that word awe or awesome so flippantly in our society today. And I think it should almost be reserved for what it truly is. Like, God is this truly awesome, incredible God. So we want to know, one of my takeaway verses that I love through this study is Job chapter 38, verse 12, where God says to Job, he says, "Have you ever in your life commanded the morning and caused the dawn to know its place?" I love that verse. Every morning when I get up, I stand at the window, and as long as it's a nice day and you're going to see the sunrise, I'm up usually before sunrise, and I watch the sunrise, and I promise, I look at it and I pray, like, God, you're commanding the morning. How beautiful is that? Yeah. Who could do that? And it just sets your day in such a beautiful way. And I've got problems in my life. I've got a lot going on in my life too. But to watch the sun start to come up and to know this is God saying, okay, sun, rise. Yep. It just opens, it expands your view of how great God is. And that's just one little verse. There's so many of them that he does. So I just think that Job must have been sitting there going, like how I was when I walked into the party, going, oh my gosh, I got this so wrong. Yeah. I'm so embarrassed right now. Totally. I really blew it, Exactly. And God doesn't rub his face in it. He just keeps going and going, and he talks to him. God definitely gives him a little bit of a lecture, if you will, about like, come on, Job, let's think about this a little, because he's trying to correct wrong thinking. Yeah. Lots of people have wrong thinking about God. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons we do this. You know what, guys? That's the reason we're doing this, is we want to help people who you've been sold a lie and you have this wrong thinking about God and who he is. And we want to help people. We want to grow ourselves. We want to help people see God for who he really is. Mm-hmm. He is a loving, compassionate, all-powerful, sovereign, holy, just, righteous, amazing creator, father, friend, and savior.
Awesome.
We want you to know that, God.
Yep, absolutely. Believe it or not, we're out of time.
Really?
Yeah,
it's because my story was really long in the beginning. Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. So maybe next time we can trim it down a little bit.
It was a good story.
We'll edit it out in post. Don't worry. No, but you know what? I think there's so much more that we could say about this, and maybe we could do another one after this, another episode. But here's what I think would be a good thing for us to do, because I think it's really important of what you just said and what we're saying about looking at God differently. Instead of questioning, why don't I understand? Maybe the better question is, God, why don't I trust you that you know more than I do? Mm-hmm. And I would just encourage us, like, as we end now, maybe a cool thing to do was, what are the chapters you're talking about again? Just so everybody knows them.
This was 38 to 40, but it really goes through to the end. You can read 38 to the end.
So here's what I would encourage you to do, right? If you're driving in your car, pull up the Bible app. It'll read to you. You don't even have to do it. But wherever you're at, I would pull up Job 38 to the end. and reread that or read it for the first time.
It's so beautiful.
But read it with the perspective of God helping Job understand who he is.
Right.
Instead of punishing him for who Job is not.
Right.
Right. And just see how your perspective changes about how God's heart is for you.
Absolutely.
And for Job and for all of us. I think that would be a cool thing.
You're going to learn so much about all the stuff that we take for granted just in the world that we live in, this beautiful gift that God gave us, this earth, and seeing how God is always working and always, you have no idea how much is going to change in you when you read these chapters. I think that's such a great idea.
Absolutely.
Great idea.
I think that would be a good place to end it. And maybe we'll pick this up on another episode because I feel like we probably have a lot we could say.
When you're not spewing so many germs.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But hey, hopefully this was something. Hopefully there's some kernel of something in here that
there's good stuff in here.
Was beneficial to you today. And if it was, would you do us a huge favor? Would you help us by spreading what God is doing here? And you can do that by sharing the video, by sharing our YouTube page, by sharing the video on Facebook, by liking us on Facebook, by subscribing to the podcast in iTunes or on YouTube, whatever it may be. Hit those buttons so that we can continue to grow the community here. Because again, yes, we want to understand this better, but we want us to understand this better, and we won't happen unless we help create that community. Right. So please help us by spreading the word. And also, if you have a question, a comment, maybe something you'd like us to clarify or a future episode suggestion you'd like us to talk about, we want to hear from you too. So there's a couple different ways you can do that. Number one, you could leave a comment below, or you can email us if you'd rather do that, kind of keep it private. That's totally fine. You can email us at discipleshiptrack@powerhousecc.org, and we will respond to you. We will take all of the stuff that you give us, but we really do want to hear from you. So please, please do that, and be sure to like, subscribe, all of those things as well. It really helps to help grow.
Hey, you know what else too? Maybe just send in a why question. We're in this series about why. If you've got a why question, if you don't want, if you're not really sure, just send in a question, like something you want to know why about, and let's see if we can help you out with that.
That's good.
We'd love that.
Cool. Well, with that, I hope you have a great day, and we can't wait to catch you on next week's episode. Maybe not next week's episode. We will see.
Because Rob's going on vacation.
That's right. No, here's the thing. I'm not going on vacation. Somebody told me once, and I completely agree with them, that when you have kids, you no longer go on vacation.
That's true.
You take trips. So we are taking.
You have no idea the trip you're about to take.
We are taking a trip. Thankfully, someone very graciously blessed us with a trip to the happiest place on earth. So we will be leaving on Sunday for Disney World. Yay. Which is very exciting. And
sorry, Parati children.
Yeah,
we never took them.
You can live vicariously through the Schwing kids next week. But hey, this will be fun. Leave a comment in the comments below. What should I do, and what should my kids do in Disney World? Let us know what
they should buy Patsy a gift.
Absolutely, that's a given,
right?
But so yeah, maybe we'll be back next week, but we'll see. If we are, you should question how I'm back, because I will not be in New Jersey. So
maybe it'll be a hologram.
Maybe.
And then I'll be safe from his germs.
Exactly. But anyway, we hope you guys have an amazing week. And I will catch you as soon as I'm back from the happiest place on earth. And we will jump back into the Discipleship Track podcast. Thanks, everybody.
See ya.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for all that you did to help contribute to the conversation and help us spread the word. We can't wait to see you next week, and we hope you have an amazing week. Thanks, guys.
Bye. I liked this.